I'm not really sure why, but I was just thinking about John 8 and the adulterous woman, and how in that moment Jesus doesn't ignore the law. You know, he doesn't say, that was a bad law, I'll change that, or I wasn't serious, or, well, it was just kind of a guideline. It was none of that. He upholds the law. And in fact, upholds it more than the men accusing this woman, because he turns it back onto them. And so, like, sort of inferring who's going to be next if we do this. And of course, they don't like that, and they all drop their stones. And John makes a point to say, beginning with the older men, and because they're the ones who were sort of wise enough to understand, and it sort of took a while to sort of trickle down to the rest. And they were trying to use God's law as a weapon, essentially. And Jesus was instead using it in this moment, particularly as a protection for this woman. But really, I mean, the law is about, not having adulterous relationships. And so really the law itself is a protection for the community, as a protection for families, as a protection for husbands and wives and children, And so to turn around and use that law as a weapon is to misuse it. And that's one of the many points that Jesus makes in this really wonderful story in John 8. And I just got to think about the idea of a cage, You wouldn't want somebody to keep you in a cage in their basement. That would be terrible. But if you're out in the ocean and you're going to be swimming around the great white sharks, you're gonna want a cage, right? And so, in the first instance, being trapped in someone's basement, the cage is a barrier. It is a weapon. It's a way of stopping you from having fun, or stopping your, restricting your freedom. And I think a lot of people come to the Bible and they see a lot of the laws, particularly new readers, when they get into Leviticus and they see all these things. They see it as, restrictions against fun, or, you're keeping me from doing things I want to do. And, but if you view all these things in their proper context, you begin to understand, and through your experience of obeying them, and, sometimes you just have to live a little and have some accumulated experience to be able to judge something. But you start to understand that this isn't a cage that I'm trapped in. This is a cage that's protecting me. This is something that's protecting me. I haven't done the math, but like, if you go to a zoo, okay, think about like Animal Kingdom, Disney World, right? What is the ratio? This might mess you up a little bit. What is the ratio of space for the animals to space for the visitors? I'm betting the animals have a lot more space, than the visitors have. And so then you kind of have to ask, then, these tall fences and these cages and these gates, are they keeping the animals in? Or are they keeping the humans in? Are the animals caged, or are the visitors caged? I mean, if you go to one of these aquariums where you can kind of like go down and go under the water and see everything. Some of them are like in natural bodies of water. Some of them are in big building aquarium kind of things. Either way, when you go through these tunnels and you're looking at all the water, who's in a tank? Are the fish in a tank, or are you in a tank? Because if that transparent wall wasn't there for you to look at everything through, if that wall wasn't there, you would drown, and you would be face to face with whatever creatures are in the water. So who's in the tank? At that point, you're like Sandy from SpongeBob, So I think we sometimes view God's law as a cage, when really it is a shield. You know, it's a really great gift. And when you start to realize that, I think your relationship with the text, I think your relationship with God's commands, I think your relationship with Jesus, with the Spirit, with God the Father, I think your relationship with these things really begins to change. And your response to these things is different. You see the value in them a lot more. And so there's a little danger here of maybe you're hearing me say, "Oh, stay in a cage where it's safe." I'm not saying that exactly. But here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying go sit in a cage on the shore, because that would be the safest. I'm not saying that. I just don't want you to go free swimming with the great whites. Now, I don't think that's a very good idea. You might be okay most of the time, but it only takes one bad event to, what I'm suggesting is the gift of a cage allows you to go explore with the great whites, the gift of God's laws allow you to venture out into the world and not stay cloistered away in safety, but instead to boldly be on the move. The Great Commission, translated into English, it's not always translated great. There's only one imperative in the Great Commission at the end of Matthew, and that is to disciple people, to make disciples. In English, go usually appears as an imperative, but it's not an imperative in the Greek. In the Greek, it's a subordinate clause, meaning it should best be translated as you go. As you go, make disciples. So in English, it says go and make disciples, but it probably should be translated as you go, disciple people, make disciples. And the implication there is, Jesus assumes you're going to go, that you're going to go about your life, that you're going to go out onto adventures, that you're going to, wander not away from his path, but wander into places where maybe the love of God, the teachings of Jesus have never fully been taken. And when you have God's laws as that protection around you, you can do that with a little more boldness and a lot more peace. And then your venturing and your wandering is now motivated by who out there still needs love. And when that's your motivation, you will never feel like you're in a cage. I promise. It's my breakfast thoughts this morning.